Good evening or good morning. This is Matt McCauley from the Fire From Momeyer podcast. I'd like to welcome you to this edition. We want to let you know, if you may not know already, some of you guys are tuning in, or people are tuning in that we're not normally designed to reach out to, but we don't mind. So it's really designed for people who are getting out of prison. And then we've moved up over the years as far as some extra things that we've done to allow people from the Hope Center who are getting out there. We're trying to reach out to them so they have some kind of afterthoughts or aftercare plan or thoughts to go by. And also, some of you we've decided, since we've had some of our guests lately, to move it to Facebook. And then we've started getting a lot more likes in the past couple of episodes. So you're welcome to hear it as just friends of mine on Facebook. But I'd like to welcome you to this edition. I want to congratulate some people that was in my prison ministry that are doing great. Walter Finley, he's buying a new home. Joseph Bellamy just got out. He's getting after it and doing great. A guy named Tim Strickland, that's a dear friend of mine that's got out of prison, seems to be getting on with life, moving into his apartment, getting straight in Raleigh, North Carolina. And we also have one man from the Hope Center who I've been counseling for the past year, named Orlando Williams. We're really proud of him because he's getting ready to graduate in January and already got lined up with an apartment, with a place to live, got a job lined up. So our goal is to try to minister to people in these kind of situations as much as we can in my off time. And also we want to have one more congratulatory comment to Mark Turbyfield, who was a guest in the past. He told me the other day he's made it 90 weeks sober. So that's a great accomplishment. We're extremely proud of him getting after it in life, trying to help somebody else that was in the place he was in. Also, I want to thank some sponsors that have helped me out as far as support, friendship, things of that nature. The first one being Appalachian Naturescapes. Mr. Terrell Knutson, my lifelong friend from way back in the 90s from Morganton, North Carolina, has done a great job helping us out. Brian Bartholomew of Bartholomew Enterprises in Nashville, North Carolina, has given me a lot of support and encouragement on this issue. My daughter's got a business now called Dough Mama, where she makes bread and is really doing, after the first year, is self-sufficient and doing great, coming out of a regular job, working for somebody else, now working for herself. So we're real proud of her. And my guest today, who is on the other side of the table, Appalachian Mobile RV Repair, Mr. Jeff Paisley. I'll be sharing his story with us later, but he's a supporter of it as well. So today, I just want to talk about fulfilling your dreams in life. Beating the system, basically, is fulfilling your dreams. I thought about some of the things. I was watching a movie. I went and saw this past weekend, and some of the commercials for the movie, ladies and gentlemen, was two movies coming out in 2026 of fulfilling dreams in your future. I can't remember the name of them, but the theme was fulfilling dreams, and that was exactly what we want to speak about today. And I thought about scripture. I thought about in Genesis that Joseph in the Bible had a dream. He had a dream of being one of the most powerful men in all the world, ruling. He told his brothers, I saw a dream, and I had a dream of all this, your sheaves bowing down to me, and the moon and the stars basically bowing down to me. And then the Bible said that they got so jealous of him, and they put him in prison, or sold him to Potiphar as a slave, and then he ended up in prison. And then fast forward down the road, the Bible said that his brothers came back to him to buy grain, and Genesis chapter 42 said, and Joseph remembered the dreams that God had given him. So I think it's an interesting read in the scriptures when you talk about how that dream came to pass in Joseph's life. The second thing being Jeremiah chapter 33 is verse 3. It says, call unto me and I will answer you and show you great and mighty things. Ezekiel chapter 37, God says to Ezekiel, can these bones live? He's talking about the valley of dry bones where they actually come together and become a nation. He was talking about the nation of Israel. And then in Psalm 37, chapter 4, it says, delight yourself also in the Lord, and he'll give you the desires of your heart. Mark 11, verse 23, Jesus is saying, say unto this mountain, be ye removed, and it shall be cast into the sea. Speaking of faith and believing in life, and so believing in him to fulfill things that go on. And today, I just have an incredible story. I have a guy that I know is a friend of mine. We do some work for him on the side, but he has a story that needs to be told. And he's one of these people in life that is really, he's been able to beat the system of just working for the man and go out on his own and have his own business. And I thought it might be some kind of encouragement to men and women that are listening to this show that might say, maybe that's me. Maybe I got something in my heart that I want to get out of there one day. But with all without further ado, I want to welcome Jeff on the podcast, Mr. Jeff Paisley. Can you tell us a little bit about your early life, where you grew up, and schooling, things of that nature?
Sure. I grew up in West Jefferson, North Carolina. Grew up with some parents that were active in my life, and it was just an interesting time because my dad was a mechanic, so I learned all of my skills and trades from him. And we lost him early in life, so it was a challenge from there on out to, when you're close with somebody like that, to be able to continue to grow the way that you were before. But that was a tough time and a good time, right? Mm-hmm. And then after graduating high school, moved to Appalachian State and worked on a couple degrees there. So I got a business degree and a sociology degree from there. Mm-hmm. And really thought that I'd follow a sociology career. And then that didn't work out. And then I got into the business side. Mm-hmm. And it was something that I continued to grow over the years, seeing all the things in there, and was able to turn that to my benefit towards the later career.
How about your first job when you got out of App State? Can you tell us a little bit about that? Just getting started good?
Yeah, I went to work right out of college for a company. It was a furniture company, but it was a national furniture company. And I was hired to be a store manager trainee. Okay. So the idea was I'd learn everything in the store from the grassroots, and be able to manage my own store one day. Mm-hmm. So I enjoyed learning and had a great store manager, but I worked with the regional manager, and he used me to actually go in and clean up other stores that were having major problems. He entrusted that to me, so it was like every 2 or 3 weeks I got moved over to a different store. Mm-hmm. To sort of figure out what their problems was, and then we'd sit down and figure out, okay, what was the best plan of action to get those taken care of. Mm-hmm. And at my home store, when I come back to there, I mean, it was a good situation, but the more I learned about this company, the more it started to create thoughts of maybe they might have been ethical issues in their policies. Mm-hmm. So that created a little issue for me, mm-hmm. right? Because I always wanted to do things the right way. And when you see things that maybe was a corporate initiative that shouldn't have been done the way that they were doing it. So I had a little bit of an issue with that. I had a store manager who asked me to do lots of things that maybe, a first-time manager shouldn't have been doing. Mm-hmm. My first task as a first-time manager was to fire somebody. So in my heart, I knew that I needed to understand people better before I just walk in and fire them. Let's see exactly what the problem is. But I remember being at odds with that the very first day as I become a manager, not the first day at the job. So that created a lot of frustration over time because I having to do things like that wasn't in my normal personality, and I wasn't raised to be like that. Mm-hmm. So it was an interesting time, a time for growth, because you had to understand, there's a lot of things that go on in your work life that maybe challenge you, and you got to be up for the challenge. And if it's the wrong things, you need to stand up for it and move on.
So how did that transition to? You talked about getting on with a Fortune 40 company.
Yeah. So my excuse me, my frustration continued to grow. So I ended up reaching out to a Fortune 40 company, and I sent in my resume because I was actually at work one day, and when I went to lunch, I took my resume and I actually put it in one of the postal blue boxes outside the buildings, right? Mm-hmm. And I did that at lunchtime, and the next day I got a call for, to come interview, mm-hmm. 24 hours. Mm-hmm. We're talking about a big corporation. Mm-hmm. And for it to get through the mail in 24 hours and then their HR department get it and make a phone call about an interview, I felt like something was trying to tell me something.
Yeah, it was a miracle, man.
Absolutely.
How many years were you out of school and working before this happened?
Well, I went directly from the furniture store into with that company.
Okay.
So it was something where I just notified the furniture store in 2 weeks I was on with the other company.
Okay.
So I spent 25 years there and worked in about 8 different positions. And the company, excuse me, the company was really good because it gave me the opportunity to learn a lot of skills in lots of different areas of the company. But it was vertically integrated, and over the 25 years that I was there, the last 10 years, I noticed that jobs that I had the ability to approve in the past, those approvals were beginning to move up the ladder, and they were being taken away from certain levels. And that ended up creating a lot of frustration for me later on. So I've got an example of a situation where I was building a special piece of equipment. It was a lift in the store that had a lot of things different than a normal mass lift. And I was working on it, and I took about a year to develop a business case around it, because we had a lot of slip and falls off roll around ladders. So I was tasked with building a piece of equipment that would actually make that slip and fall situation go away. And so after we tested it in 9 stores, we ended up, I put a business case together from all the information from the 9 stores, and then ended up presenting the business case to the executive vice president and 6 regional vice presidents. And I had pitched for 5 machines, and it was funny because we're going back and forth talking about the machines and how they'd be implemented in the store. And one of the regional vice presidents come back and just said, well, I think 3 will fit, right? So
A lot of money involved.
a lot of money, yeah. They didn't want to go over the budget, didn't want to offer more budget for more machines. So the regional vice presidents had been in the stores after they got rolled out. And about 90 days after the rollout, they come back to me and they said, hey, we want to ship another one into the stores at a cost of about $2 million just to ship them. So they added $2 million to the price tag because they waited to ship them. Well, one of my jobs was to go into other companies and see what they were doing as well, the competitor. So I go into the competitor, and they've got 5 of those machines sitting on their floor. And the vendor that I was working for that built these machines for us ended up taking and selling that idea to the competitor, and the competitor bought 5 of them right off the bat. And we're sitting there nickel and diming trying to get 3 to 5, right? And so that's just an example of some of the issues that frustrated me, especially the last part of that career.
So did you ever, you had spoke about a dream building within you when we talked earlier. Do I really want to be doing this? I'm speaking to the listener here as well. Do I want to be doing this the rest of my life, or is there some way I could do it on my own and run things better? Could I come up with my own plan? Could you share a little bit about that, like during the process?
Sure. One of the big things was that I had rolled out some things to a couple locations. So I decided to go look at that stuff and see how the store was using it, if it was doing the things that it should be doing to help staff. And I was in there, and we were having some conversations, and I was just thinking. And I thought, hey, I build this stuff every day for a company, and I have no rights to it. What if I turned around and I started building stuff and selling it to these companies, right? And I would have all the rights to it at that point. So that was the first part of the dream, was you've got to be able to see it first, right?
Yeah,
or see yourself outside of the ordinary or the daily activities. So, so I went back home that night and I was like, okay, well, what am I going to do at this point? You know, I need to be thinking about my next chapter in my life, so to speak. And that's when I started thinking about what steps I wanted to take. About a year later, there was some corporate downsizing going on. And my boss come to me and he said, hey, I hear through the grapevine that there's going to be this downsizing. And would you be willing to take a severance package if they end up coming in and offering you that? And he said, nobody's going to be protected in this thing. He said they're taking out positions more than they're taking out people because it was a money thing. So I was like, you know, I'd have to think about that, you know. But I'm really not a gambling man. So I decided, yeah, if they come up with a severance, I'd probably take that because I've got this other dream that I want to follow anyway, right? So I went on vacation for a long weekend, and my boss calls me at 7 a.m., and I'm like, I'm on vacation. What's he calling me for? And he ends up, I didn't answer the phone because I was on vacation. So I listened to the voicemail, and he says, well, they downsized me today. I'm not part of the company any longer.
Speaking of you.
No, my boss.
Okay.
Right. Okay. So I called him up, and he explained the situation, and he said that they didn't offer him anything. They just took him out. And so I knew that downsizing had started at that point.
So the hatchet's starting to fall, right? Heads are starting to roll, but
absolutely,
you're not that afraid,
right?
You're saying, well, I got something I can do out here in the world.
Absolutely, and so, you know, I was positive that because of the things that I brought to the company, I was like, well, they never put me in that. But I also forgot that we're talking about positions, not people. And when they decided to do it, they come to me and they said, hey, we're going to offer you the severance. And I was like, okay, well, I already know the whole program around that because I was already having to, you know, get rid of people and offer them certain things. Right. And like I said, I'm not a gambling man, so I took the sure thing because I had a whole different scenario in my head that I would go do after that. So I ended up, after I left the company, you know, I'm driving home that day, and you feel a little bit empty and hopeless at that point, right? Even though you've got a program in your mind, at that time you're thinking about what just happened. So I'm driving home, and I'm sort of going through that scenario, and I'm like, was I really expendable, or was it just a position thing? And then by the time I got home, I had changed pace, and I was like, okay, what I want to do now is I want to look at what can I do to get better and start on that dream I've been looking at for years, right? So the first part of that was to do a self-analysis, right, of the skills that I had. So I'm pull out a sheet of paper, and I'm writing down, you know, what are the skills I have? I have financial background, I have budgeting background, I have marketing background, I have buying background, I have operations background. When I first sat down, I was like, I don't know what I got, right? And then all of a sudden you go, well, I've got all this stuff that makes a company run. And then that's when I said, okay, I'll be okay, right? So the big thing is to understand what you bring to yourself or to your company. It can either be personal or it can be business. But it's always good to take a second and just do that self-analysis to say, okay, where am I at? What do I have to give? And how do I get where I'm going? And I think a lot of us start out with big steps. And I always say that big steps create fear in somebody, right? Because nobody, when you say, okay, well, I'm going to do this, and now all of a sudden you go, well, you didn't think about all the little steps, and you go, man, that's big. I don't know if I can get there. And then you start thinking about the small steps, and you cut it up into smaller bites, so to speak, right? And then it becomes easy. That fear goes away because you can concentrate on something small, and now you begin to work towards your goals. And before you know it, you get to the end of all those steps, and you've got something built there that you can depend on, that you can grow with, it can grow with you.
So what your first idea of how, okay, I'm here now, this is behind me, like they say, the rear view mirror is smaller than the windshield, basically.
Yeah.
So you're looking for, what did you put out to the world and say, I think I can make this work? As far as you spoke to me about kayaking in the past. You had an interest in outdoors, products, things of that nature.
Yeah. So one of the big things for me was when I was sitting there doing the self-analysis and all of that was I wanted to do something that I enjoyed, that I could pour myself into every day, and I knew why I was doing it, right? I wanted to create a product that I knew would fit people, that people would want. So I started this small manufacturing business, and it was based around fishing kayaks and kayaking. And one of the things that I had to do right off the bat is do the research to figure out, well, why do people get out of kayaking at 40 or 45 years old? Because I'd read some stuff that said they got out of it at that point.
And you're around that age too?
Right.
Yep, understand.
And it was something that I knew a lot about because fishing kayaking was just beginning to blow up at that point. So I knew they were areas to create products in that. And then another thing that was a pitfall was that the weight of the kayaks. They had always weighed 30 or 40 pounds. Well, the new fishing kayaks weighed somewhere between 75 and 100 pounds. So I created a dolly system, an automatic dolly system that the wheels would come down and you could pick up the kayak and you could roll it off. So I solved the weight issue because now you're moving 20% of the weight instead of 100% of the weight. And then when the wheels come down and it was in the water, one of the other issues was safety. So when the wheels come down, you didn't have to worry about the safety of flipping over anymore. As we got a little bit older, in that 45 range, people lose a little bit of movement. And now all of a sudden when they crawl in, they can't move quickly and then they flip over. Well, these wheels acted like training wheels on a bicycle. So when they come down, it would hold the kayak in place and they didn't flip over anymore.
And you developed that?
Yes.
That's all right, man.
So so that was the first thing that I brought to market. So I ended up, I worked with an attorney to come up with, do all my patent stuff for me and get the idea patent. And then I worked with some other vendors in China to actually build these things for me. And then I ended up going to Oklahoma City to an outdoor show. I heard about it, and so I called them and got set up with a booth location. And then went to the show, and when I went to put everything in the booth that evening, I noticed that my booth was in front of the door walking into the show. So I had the prime real estate, right? And
set up from God.
And I didn't ask for it,
sir.
right?
Yeah.
Because they were supposed to assign you by your call-in.
Yes, sir.
Right?
Yes, sir.
And so I walk in, and all I know is I'm right there at the front door. So everybody's got to pass me. So it's nothing I done. It was something that a higher power had done for me.
That's right.
Right?
Yep. Yep.
So the next morning, me and my salesman went to breakfast, and then we come back in, and we're getting everything ready to go, sort of, just dotting the I's kind of thing. And there's 100 people lined up at the door.
That's incredible.
And they open the door, and they start to come through the door, and I flip the switch, and the dolly starts to work. Mm-hmm. And we had 20 or 30 people lined up in seconds. Yeah. Yeah. And we're selling product to all these different companies, mm-hmm. because they were buyers for big companies, mm-hmm. like Dick's and companies like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Sporting goods.
Right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
And so for 8 hours, that's what we did. We flipped that switch and talked to people and took orders. Mm-hmm. And it's really interesting when you take an idea from the grassroots and you build it. And then you take all the little steps that we were talking about, a little step every day. And then it grows into something that you're selling your idea and your belief and your vision, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And when people walk up and they go, well, I'll take 100 of those. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you know that everything's come to fruition at that time. Mm-hmm. So that was a very enlightening part for me, because it was almost like that everything happened not only because I had the vision, but because I had help from somewhere. Everything sort of fell into line.
Tell about some connections that came along the way, maybe people that spoke into your life and in this transition period.
Yeah,
people that said, hey, I think this will work.
And I think it's always good to have mentors. I always say, have people in your life that can support you and be mm-hmm. a positive thought or thinking person behind you, mm-hmm. and accepts your ideas maybe and helps guide them. Mm-hmm. I knew a VP with another company, and I called him in Charlotte, and I said, hey, I've got this idea. I know you work in this kind of stuff with new idea stuff, and I said, I just want to come in and run it by you and see if you can give me a little insight on how you would think about it. Mm-hmm. So I ended up making a pitch to him, like if he was the customer. And he told me, he says, I'm ready to invest. He said, you want a partner? Mm-hmm. And I knew at that moment that I was on to something, mm-hmm. right? Because he did this for a living. And for me to make that pitch and he come up and offer to be a partner with me. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, I'm at the point where I'm trying to bootstrap things. So I'm trying to do all the financing myself. Mm-hmm. I said, if I get to a point that I've got to take on a partner, I said, you'll be the first person mm-hmm. I call. Mm-hmm. So that was the first time that I really felt like the dream was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Because it was somebody that didn't have knowledge of it. And then they said, okay, I like it. I think it'll work. Mm-hmm. So he become a mentor to me. Another guy that ran a manufacturing company become a mentor. And I talked to him, and he was very involved with manufacturing overseas. So he was able to give me a lot of insight around that. And I think every little bit of that I learned from both of those guys helped me be a success in that field.
So it pays to have people speaking into your life, right?
Absolutely. And what happened to me was I went to that show and I was selling some product, and a guy comes up at the end of the day at 4:45. And he says, you don't know me, but he said, I wanted to introduce myself. He said, I've walked this show 3 times today. And he said, I think you got the best ideas out here. Mm-hmm. He said, I've got a meeting. I can't talk right now. Mm-hmm. But if you're willing to stay after hours, he said, I'll come back in about an hour and a half. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I said, I ain't got nothing but time. Mm-hmm. I'll wait on you.
Oh, yeah. Yep. And
he come back and we started talking, and he was building kayaks. And he wanted something that would work on his boats. Mm-hmm. And I got to talking with him, and we talked back and forth. And then I went to visit him after the show and talked some more. And he spent some time watching me retrofit one of his sample boats, and he was all in. And I probably worked with him about 6 weeks off and on. And his office was a couple hours away. Excuse me. And I drove down to see him one day, and we were discussing some stuff, and he says, close the door behind you. I closed the door, and he says, I want to make you an offer for your company. So he decided that he wanted to buy that company, even though I didn't have a real brand established in the marketplace. And I said, why would you want this company? And he said, well, I've got the branding. He said, I can put it under my brand. And he said, and you've got a patent. And he said, so I can't build it. So he said, I want to buy it from you. So he ended up purchasing the company off of me, which was sort of full circle, right? From the beginning to the end. Now I've sort of traveled that road. And then I went home that night, and I was like, okay, I've done what I tried to do here. But you're also thinking, well, I feel a little empty now because this has been your baby, right? It's grown. You've watched it grow. And now all of a sudden, tomorrow, you don't have that to do any longer. So the first thing I did was I said, hey, I've got to find something else to do. And originally, I got into the kayaking stuff because it was something that I was close to, that I knew, that I felt. And so I thought about what else was close to me that I thought that I could be a success in. And that's when I moved into the RV industry. My business now is mobile RV inspection repair. And so I ended up, found a school that certified inspectors and repairmen. And I went and took the classes that they had, and I took their exams and everything that you had to do and passed them and got certified. And they put you on a national locator, and I was on the way home, and in 2 days I was getting phone calls.
That's amazing.
Saying, hey, I need you to do work for me. So, and I've been busy ever since.
And that's been how long?
7 years. 7 years.
Man. And when I'm working with you, the phone is ringing continually. Would you attest to that?
Yeah, we get a lot of phone calls. We're actually got more work than we can get to. So,
and you're working for yourself.
Working for myself. And I always say that the thing that inspires me from day to day that most people don't realize is it gives your time back, right? When you're your own boss, you have the time. You create the time that you work or don't work. Now, you may work 60, 70 hours, right? But you choose the time that you do it. So it's a little bit easier like that. And if you want to take that vacation, you can take the vacation too.
And you don't have to work under any other. You told me you would never go back to a Fortune 40. You didn't care. You were happier than you ever been on your own. You don't have to worry about somebody watching your money, watching your accounts. Pay your taxes, and you're good for the year. Is that what I'm understanding?
Absolutely. You know, I think the corporate world was good to me, and I enjoyed it. There's
a lot of greed, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And this way, you know, it's not like I'm trying. There's a lot of different ways to look at it, because when you're running your own business, you can try to make every dollar in the world, or you can try to make a few dollars, or you can be in that middle place where you're making a few and your quality of life is really good. And it's going to be different for every person. But for me, I want that quality of life, and I want to have the control of the business. And I want to be able to make the decisions. I don't want to be stuck in middle management going, well, I need somebody above me to make that decision. And when I go home at the end of every day, it's like I look forward to doing work the next day, right?
And most of the world, would you attest, is not at that level? If the truth was known, a lot of people hate their job. I think the stats say most people are not satisfied with their job.
Well, I think
that what
that's
I'm
one of the
understanding?
biggest things and in the corporate
corporate
world,
America.
that's how it was, right? Regardless what you had to do, if you were 9 to 5, I mean, like my job was 9 to 5, but I'd go in at 6 o'clock and I'd get off at 8 o'clock at night. You're putting so many hours in every day that you don't have time for your family. I think I mentioned to you that I was on the road a lot for a couple years there, for a lot of years. And the biggest problem was I didn't have time. That was time I lost with my family.
That you won't ever get back.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
So if you have the ability and the skills to create something for yourself that gives you that ability to enjoy your family and the things around you, I would tell you to pursue it 100%.
And I think you told me, looking back, you wished you'd have got this idea 20 years ago. Is that what you were telling me when we were talking about preparing for this?
Well, I say
episode?
40. I say 40 years ago.
Well,
If I would have been doing this 40 years ago,
sir.
I'd be so much further ahead.
Yes, sir.
But like I say, corporate was good for me. But it taught me everything that I needed to be successful. But that's where I go back to the skills that you learn. You don't know you have them until you sit down and take an inventory of them.
That's right.
And we all will have some skills that we can relate to something that will inspire us to step out on that limb and do what we want to do.
And you're more successful now than you were in the corporate America. You're doing better than you ever done as far as finances, am I understanding?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, right now I'm at the position where I can't get to everything. Right?
Yes, sir.
But even financially, even though that I'm at a better place today, I get more vacation than I've ever had. So that goes back to that quality time for yourself that you need.
Yep, and you get to go to Alaska 2 months of the year. That's how many people get to live like that. I mean, that's amazing, man.
Well,
it's awesome.
That's interesting because I mentioned to a friend the other day that that I went to Alaska for 2 months, and they were like, "How did you do that? The rest of us have to work."
Yeah, the rest of us have to go 5 and 2 days off, and you're back on the Monday again. But
absolutely,
it's a wonderful life you have, Jeff. I mean, I'm amazed and I'm also amazed at how much your customers like you. Every time you go out there, you have a great rapport with them, and you didn't have a take charge type personality. I mean, you sort of have an analytical personality. Would you reiterate on that you don't have to be the best salesman in the world? You just have to, like you said, if you love something enough, it'll sell itself. Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, that's what I always say. If you believe something, believe in something, and if you're doing something that you believe in, it comes across in your personality when you talk to people, and people gravitate towards that. They can feel it in you. And I think that's the relationships that I build today, is people understand that I'm excited about RVing. So when they have a problem, they know they're going to get it fixed, but they also get more because I try to educate them while I'm out there as well. And those relationships, when you build relationships of trust like that, because people want to know that they can trust you to work on something and it's going to be taken care of. They don't want something breaking out on the road, right? Because that's a terrible experience. And, my business on repeat customers grows 20% a year.
Man, that's incredible, man. That's amazing. And I noticed that some days are really great days, and then there's days when you'll tell me, this is a warranty. I'm paying for this. But yet, you've proven with the same customers that you'll go out there and go after that fix the issue you got to fix up, and you're not getting anything off of it as much as you would. A lot of people would turn that down and find a way to put it off 2 or 3 weeks, would they not? But yet you go out there and take care of it, just like put it in the order as the rest of them. And I think that says a lot to me about integrity of the business.
Yeah, absolutely.
God's hand on the business, no question.
Absolutely. If you get the opportunity to do the things that you want to do, it shows on you what kind of person you are, right? And a lot of times that gets lost in the transition. And to me, warranty is the same as any other job. You just need to go get it fixed. And if anything, you need to get it fixed quicker than the others.
That's right.
Right? Because that's a direct representation on your work. And if you can't hold your head high at the end of the day, maybe we need to look at ourselves and
right.
see what's going on.
You have anything you could say to somebody coming out of prison that has dreams that they built while they were in prison, or maybe people that had a bad situation, they took one bundle of meth or whatever the case, and then their whole life got spun out of control, but now they've gotten help and they're trying to go back out in the world. Or just somebody out here, some of my friends up here, some of them are law enforcement guys, probation people, things like that. And they have desire to one day be maybe where you are in their corner of the world, so to speak. You have any advice you would give that person at this time in your life, looking back on it?
Well, I think the two biggest things is surround yourself with good people. People who have seen situations that can talk through those situations and help you. And the other one was like what we were talking about before. Don't let everything be big. Break it into small steps so you can actually work on it at a certain pace, at your pace, so you can continue to grow through that process. Because as we see things and things inspire us further, we'll go, okay, I can do that. And you open your mind and you open your heart to it at that point. And once you do that, you can accomplish anything that you want to accomplish.
Yep. Well, I have no doubt that God's hands on your life and your business, and I've certainly done a lot of praying for it to grow and prosper, and I'm just excited, Jeff. I'm excited about the future that you have, and there's no telling, no stopping what's going to happen. So we thank you for being a guest today. Guys, if that's you and you're listening to us, so I say guys because we had a lot of people in prison that we kept up with over the years. We probably have 30 or 40 guys that we keep up with that are out now, and friends coming out all the time, and families of friends. And so now we're into the Hope Center, and we have a lot of friends there that we're trying to reach out to. And then we have people that just listen because of Facebook that got out. I'm believing for something great to happen for you. I believe, like I talked about in the scriptures, God said, I don't think God wants you depressed every day. I don't think he wants you going to work another day, another dime, another day, another dollar. You see people, they just go through life and all they think about is retirement. All they think about, Jeff, is, well, when I get my day, it's coming, but you got to get out here and get after it in life and let God use somebody to help you and submit to his will, get into the scriptures and spend some time in prayer and see what happens. Who knows what may take place, but you can't look back. One thing I can tell you that you can't look back, and you've got to move forward, and you got to let him be leading you, because there's other people that you're helping along the way, and there's people that need what you've got to get where they are, because we all are getting through this life, and we all need help to get through. And I want to thank you for coming on. I want to thank you guys for listening, and we hopefully this will be sent out probably going to be first of the year. I hope you had the best year you've ever had in 2026. I hope that God gives you some past doors to open and things to happen and great things to take place. And, I hope we'll be sending some more guests along the way. But what we want to, the kind of theme that I want to go in now is let's just beat the system. Let's beat the monotony of life, and get out here and get after it and see what kind of doors that the Lord has open for you. And if you'll believe with me, I'll believe for you. And, I just want you to make it a great year, and give us a like. Let me know. Give me some comments. If you need some prayer, anything of that nature, we need to know that we're making an impact on somebody. We're putting forth the Lord's money to good things. And so, with that said, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. Thank all the guys that's been calling me over the years. Thank you, Matt, for all that you've done to help me out. Thank your wife, your family. We've spent a lifetime probably now of trying to help others. So we hope to make it happen as long as I'm on this earth. And with that said, if I don't see you here or there, I'll see you in the air. Making a great day. Thank you.